Hi Mark, how you going?
It's going good, David. Thanks for having me on today.
No problem. Thanks a lot for coming on. Um, how long have you been running for? Like, how did you get into it?
I've been running since 2019, so 5 or 6 years. I was a college athlete in St. Paul at the University of St. Thomas. I played football and lacrosse. And oddly enough, running was welcomed into my life through how most people, I think, my age and background get into running is through a David Goggins podcast. I was coming back from a weekend long tournament for our senior year. We had lost two out of the three games, and it was an 18-hour bus ride back home. My older brother had sent me the Goggins podcast, what he did with Rogan, and I was just, pity partying in the back of the bus, trying to figure out what direction this team was going to go. And I'm listening to a man talk about how he was, for a lack of better terms, pissing blood and then continuing to run another 30 miles. And I was like, holy smokes, I've never heard of somebody like this. And so that spring, I started running. And then once football and lacrosse were done, I knew I needed some way to transition the energy that I you know, gave out on Saturdays for football and lacrosse, and that turned to running. And so I kind of got into it right after college, and that competitive nature in me just was like, all right, I accomplished this. I want to see what else I can accomplish. And so just kind of spiraled from there.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, David Goggins is who really opened up my eyes to what's possible if you truly work hard. And has working hard always come naturally to you, or did you learn that lesson from someone when you were growing up?
That's a great question. I think working hard has it's looked different for me when I reflect back on all the years of sports that I've done. And I think recently I've made a shift of like actually understanding what hard work looks like. I grew up in a home where my dad worked, and still to this day, my dad works full time and my mom works two or three part-time jobs. They raised four of us kids, and so working hard was like doing whatever you possibly can to sacrifice and put time, effort, and energy into like this betterment of the family or betterment of the group. And playing sports for me was always like it was hard work to go to practice and show up, but to me that always felt like fun. Like it was kind of attributed as like, oh, we're working hard, but this is also something that I like to do. And through college, I think I learned that like not only showing up for practice was work, but also spending hours of time watching film, hours in the weight room, hours of like mentally preparing myself for that practice or for that game. And so I think as time has gone on, as I've gotten more experienced in like sports and like the collegiate and professional level mindset, that level of work extends far beyond the time I'm running or the time I'm practicing, but all the extra stuff like showing up consistently to the weight room. And then when I'm showing up consistently to the weight room, how do I increase how I'm showing up to the weight room? Because if I have a 90% effort day compared to a 20% effort day, obviously you can't have like 100% or 90% effort day every day you walk in. But if you're having a 10 or 20% effort day, what am I doing sleep wise the night before or nutrition wise the day before to at least get that 20% to a 40%? And so that's where I've seen the work shift in like how I'm thinking about things and what I actually think about hard work and dedication to like a discipline being. And so that's kind of shifted over my period of time as an athlete.
Mm. So, from what I can see, you got into running long distances when you were like pretty young, like early 20s. And
Yeah.
you started like running 50Ks and 50 milers. So, what drew you towards running the ultra distances?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great question. I was inspired by James Lawrence, the Iron Cowboy, if you're familiar with him.
I know the name. Yeah.
Yeah. So just to give some context, when I was just getting out of school, his documentary on Netflix of doing 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days was just coming out. And before leading up to that moment, I was really hooked on Goggins. But what I saw Goggins, I saw this lone wolf mentality. I saw this guy that was like in a dark cave, just going to work, doing whatever possible, kind of on his own. And then this documentary of Iron Cowboy came out, and I saw a man that had a family around him. I think he has 5 or 6 children who had really made this running and like endurance and suffering thing his full-time job. And that to me was, it was like illuminating. It was like, oh, like I can do something that I really enjoy, which is putting my body on the line through this also like in tangent and lockstep with this mental and character development thing. And then people through a certain element will like, this could be my full-time job. I could support and provide for a family. Um, and that to me like really started to get my mind on like, okay, in this documentary, Iron Cowboy talked about how there's no way to possibly prepare fully to run 50 Ironmans in 50 states in 50 days. Like the only way to know if you can do it is by going out and trying to do it. And if it works, well, you knew you could do it. And so I sort of took that approach of like, I'd done a marathon and I said, why not run a 50K? Why not run a 50 miler? Why not run 160 miles? Why not run, 500? Like, I don't know if I can do it, but like, the only way to find out is to go out and try. And
Yeah.
so I just started doing that of like putting this goal out there, telling people I was going to do it. And then, well, I've already told people, so I have to do it now. So I think that drew me in. And the farther I went in distance, to kind of get back to your original question of like, I really appreciated what it was doing to my soul, what it was doing to my character. I was a type of college athlete that I bottled up a lot of anger and then I took it out on my opponents on Saturdays. And then I would binge drink, wake up Sunday morning with regrets, bottle that energy back up, and like that cycle. And through running, I was able to work through a lot of that and not feel like I had this weight on my chest.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of those things came together of like, well, why don't you continue seeing what you're capable of?
Mm. Yeah, awesome. The,
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like you definitely have fallen in love with the last one standing format. I count
Mhm.
you've done six. So, do you remember what it was that attracted you to like really focusing on the backyard format?
Yeah, I think I mean, really, I feel like I just stumbled into it. Um, I knew early on that I wasn't the type of runner. I wasn't motivated to win Leadville or like that. I didn't have a running background, so I wasn't enamored by these like big races and running fast and like being the best. I just liked what it did to me personally, and I liked this mirror that it put up
Mm.
of this is who I believe that I am. But then specifically in the last person standing race, the first few times I did it, I got to a point and my belief about who I am completely shattered. Like I was like questioning my entire identity, questioning myself as a man, as a leader, as all of these things. And then you get 2 or 3 days removed and you're like, why did I quit? Like why did I give up? Why did I have how could I have been broken so low to think of that way of myself? And that's ultimately what like led me to continue going back to these backyards was I just wanted to figure out who that person was, and the only way to communicate with that person was to get to that place. And the only way to get to that place was by doing more backyards so I could put myself in that position. And then, a few years ago, I got to that low point and I had a good team around me that said, no, you can't quit. Like you've told yourself this before, you can't quit. And then I got to the other side of that and I experienced like, oh, that was just a wave of negativity. And now I'm 2 hours removed from that. And I feel like I can go another full day. Like this is amazing. Like I'm on the other side of the dark hole. This feels great. And that to me was eye-opening of like, oh, this is what Goggins meant when you're only 40, like when you think you're done, you're only 40% done. And I think that combination of character development, meeting that person, and then getting to the other side was almost like a reward system of like, oh, I want to keep going back to that. I want to see what that limit is.
Yeah, I like it. So I remember when I ran my first backyard, like I knew absolutely nothing, and I rocked up just with some coconut water and some biscuits. So, what was your knowledge like when you did that first one?
I didn't have much. I didn't have much. I kind of came in with an ego. There's probably a general theme with my life of my ego is big enough where it thinks I can accomplish and beat anybody, and then it gets humbled, and then I go back to the drawing board. But I walked into that first race like, how hard can this be? All I have to do is outlast the last person, and I'm tougher than that person. And early on, I realized that like my goal of just winning, my goal of just outlasting the competition did not serve me well. And I think, in the first 2 or 3 races that I did that I quit, I was so focused on how the other people were doing compared to just focusing on how I could be my best for that next loop really changed for me. Because, no matter how much you are struggling, your perception of how somebody else is doing, like, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. And I think just early on, the naivety and inexperience led me to focus on the competition and really not rely on people. I didn't have a crew that first year. My dad ended up driving. I was on the second or third loop, and I called him up. I'm like, can you come up and help? And he was at 2.5, 3 hour drive away, and of course my dad he came on up. But just really learning, you can't do it on your own. Don't worry so much about the competition, and how are you going to make this the best possible loop you can so that you can lay up yourself for that next loop.
So every time I run a backyard, I always find it's the social side of the format that I enjoy the most, like running with others. Is that something that you really enjoy about backyards as well?
I'll be honest, no. I don't. And part of the reason is because as much as I love communicating and talking with people, it just knowing, at least at this point, I know, I could be there for 2 or 3 days. I'm just constantly thinking about how to conserve as much energy as possible. And the energy that I get through communicating with other people, I kind of think about it as like I run slow loops instead of fast loops, because running a loop in 40 minutes and getting 20 minutes to rest, the output that you put in for that 40 minutes, it's you're putting in so much work just to rest when you could just stay even keeled. And I kind of think about that as communication is like, if I'm going to be here for 2 or 3 days, getting these spikes of dopamine and energy of talking with other people is going to come with a crash on the other side of things. And I'd rather just not put any time into that. So personally, no, but I hope people don't take offense to that out there. If I'm just pretty like, not going to talk to you right now today.
No, I love the honesty. I love that. So you've run in, I think it's called WausaUltra 4 times.
Yes.
Is that your local sort of backyard ultra race?
Yeah, it's about 2.5 hours I'm in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and that's in Wausau, Wisconsin. And that is by far my favorite race because the first year I went there, it was their first year doing the last person standing. And I've been able to watch them build it and grow it and add these really special elements each and every year. And so it's local to me. It's also an insanely difficult course. I was joking around with Jake, the race director. I was like, every last person standing race I've seen is relatively flat, and you guys are almost like I think 300 feet of elevation gain per loop. I'm like, you guys are nuts. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
So I like it because it's a challenge and it's the people there.
Yeah.
It's a great time. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see you did like 21 yards, 20 yards, but since then you've taken things to another level. So was there a moment when you decided to step things up a gear mentally and physically to take that step?
Yeah. I think from a big picture thing, yes. The big picture is I went from focusing on trying to win the race in year one and year two to not even worrying about the winning aspect and going to my only goal is just don't quit.
Yeah.
If I can focus on that and I can use that answer against every other excuse I have, my feet hurt. Well, just don't quit. My stomach's causing problems. Just don't. Like, if I can use that, then the outcome of winning will come as a natural byproduct to that mindset. And so from a big picture, I transitioned that like macro mindset of I'm just not quitting. That's my only focus. And then in the moment, I was coming in, I think it was close to 23 or 24 hours, kind of in that low point that I had quit the previous 2 years. And I remember rounding the corner, I'm like, Dad, I'm done. Like, I had actually tried to throw that loop by coming in after the buzzer. And I came in with 2 minutes to spare. I'm like, I'm done. I don't want to go back out. And he was like, nope, you got 2 minutes. You're going to go back out. And they didn't, my crew, my dad, my girlfriend at the time, now my fiance, Lucy, they were like, you're not quitting, just go back out for another loop. And I think that very next loop, one of the contenders, he was like, this is my last loop. I'm going to turn around. He shook my hand and he turned around, and then it was down to four of us, and I'd never made it to the final four before. And that energy was like, holy cow, imagine if I just quit back there. I would be missing this feeling right now. And that got me over the edge in that race. And that's what extended to this other like macro view on the other side of things of when you are in that dark place, if you can just sit in it and take steps forward a little while longer, more than likely you will find the light at the end of the tunnel. And you just have to experience the darkness for a little bit longer. And that's what really transitioned to like the next year. And maybe this most recent race of last dots is like that macro mindset coming on the back end of that race.
Yeah, cool. So I had a look at your Strava profile, and it looks like you've really increased the amount of like your mileage. Like in 22, it says I'm doing kilometers here because I'm in Australia, but
Yeah.
4,500 kilometers in 22, almost 7,000 in 23, and then last year did 8,500. So, I mean, that was obviously a conscious decision, yeah, to run.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did a challenge. Have you heard of Calendar Club?
Is that where you run 1 mile day one, 2 miles day two?
Yes.
And, yeah.
Yeah. So I had this idea back in 2023. I started it in May of 2023, and I did the Calendar Club challenge every month for 1 full year.
Wow.
And so I restarted back at 1 mile every month, and that went from May of 2023 to April of 2024. So that was a big increase from just having like a random put together training plan that I would do to I'm going to run 500 or so miles a month, and this is how I'm going to do it. And I'm going to run this amount of miles every day. I know my training plan for the next year. And then sprinkled in there February. There's a backstory behind this, but for February, I did a full month of Calendar Club on a treadmill and a full month of Calendar Club outside. So that month was 870 miles for the total month. So there's just a big increase of miles in that year. And then kind of that trend for me of the only way I train right now is Calendar Club. Like that's the only way I know how to train because I'm really bad at accountability of like, if I have a wedding coming up, I'll be like, okay, I'll cut down the miles that day. I give myself way too many outs.
Yeah.
And Calendar Club is the one thing that I know that if it's a 20-mile day and I have a wedding that day, then I have to find a way to get the miles in that day. And so I think the trend of doing more miles over the last few years is just attributed to Calendar Club miles of like, that's just builds in about 500 miles a month.
Yeah, cool. Do you do much speed work and elevation as well?
I don't do a ton of elevation. That is something I've been doing. I try and do a little more of, but it really hasn't been a priority for me. I like to think that I get the strength in my legs from the lifting I do with Austin Yoakum 4 days a week. And honestly, I think that has been the biggest help. As far as the speed goes, so I do, as I was saying before we hopped on, I do these things called Beat My Beer Mile. And Beat My Beer Mile is a series I created where I race college athletes in where they run a normal mile and I do a beer mile. And so I train for that by doing speed work on a track. And I'm again, like, I wouldn't do speed work if I didn't do beer miles. And therefore I do beer miles so that I can do speed work.
Right. I see.
It's kind of like the Calendar Club. Like I do it because I need the long miles. And so they just kind of work on each other.
Yeah, cool. Now, you mentioned last dot standing a few minutes ago, and you finished last one standing at this race, last dot standing.
I did.
It sounds like it was a sort of backyard ultra with a twist. So can you tell me a bit about how that worked?
Yeah, so Last Dot Standing is a 10 junk miles race by Scott Coomer. And instead of doing historically it's a loop race, there's all these rules that they implement, like you can't use poles, that, I forget some of the other like more specific things, but instead of a loop course, he does a point to point 4.167 mile course from a park in Belleville, Wisconsin. And then the 4 mile run ends at a really small town tavern in the middle of a neighborhood because it's along an old rail trail. And it just, when there was a train going through there was a tavern in town. And so it's just back and forth between the community park and the tavern. And so that's what makes it, I guess, unique, that it's not a looped course, which most people are used to. It's a point to point.
Yeah. So rather than starting and stopping in the same corral, you'd be either A or B. And it was a huge run. You went for 64 hours, right? And leading into the race, were you expecting the race to go that long?
No, absolutely not. I've got a race coming up in November. It's another last person standing race, a silver ticket race for the Team USA Backyard team. And so I was just really seeing this race as this last dot as like an opportunity to train and stay in that consistent mindset and mode. And I had only learned about this race because Scott puts on this run every year from Chicago to Milwaukee. It's the world's longest turkey trot. It's about a 90-mile run that happens the day after Thanksgiving. Oh, yeah. And I'm from the suburbs of Chicago, and so I heard that this was going on, so I dropped in, and then he was telling me about Last Dot. He was telling me that they had prize money for it. I'm like, great, like that sounds like fun. Maybe I can win and run a couple 100 miles. And no, ends up me and Garrett we were one-on-one for 30 hours and ended up running, 63 hours and 264 miles. So was
Yeah.
not expecting it at all.
Yeah, unreal. Yeah, so I saw it was from, it looked like the 33rd hour is just down to you and Garrett. So were
Yeah.
you running on the same loop or were you passing each other each hour?
On the same loop. So even though there are two different aid stations, yeah, everybody starts on the same side, so you're moving together. And
Yeah,
then obviously they got to wait until that next hour to start going back to the other aid station.
I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So because at the end of each hour you're at different ends of the course, does that mean that you've got crew waiting for you at each end, or did you just have crew on one end waiting for you when you got back?
Yeah, yeah, that was a big concern, or I guess question mark. And part of the reason I wanted to do this race is because there was like that element of like the stress it would put on crew and the stress it would put on like this is a new obstacle. It's a good opportunity to learn for future backyards.
Mm.
My fiance Lucy is my crew. And she makes all the food that I eat, and she's there kind of taking care of me, helping wash my feet. She does like the best job I've ever seen. Um, and we had planned on going into it, her just staying at the park, and I would see her every 2 hours. And 2 hours, she was like, I'm kind of bored over here. Like I'm used to doing things and it's stressful because she's not getting any sleep either. But at a certain point, she just decided to drive back and forth and meet me and be there for the whole time. And I think as the day and weekend started to unfold of like, holy cow, what like you guys are going for 50, you're going for 60. Like, what is going on here? I think she just wanted to make sure that I was kept going as well as I possibly could, and she wanted to be a part of that and um, you know help pull weight as much as I was pulling weight. And so she was like, I'm going to be there. I'm going to be at every stop. So
Yeah.
yeah, she was going back and forth.
Yeah, very good. So it must have been absolutely epic going just you and Garrett for such a long time. Did you know Garrett before the race?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Not at all.
Um, so as far as planning goes, like, do you have what you're going to eat and things like that written down each hour, or is it more just eat what you feel like at the time?
Yeah, that's something that maybe you could tell already. I am not the science guy, the method guy.
Yeah.
We'll make spaghetti, we'll make pancakes, mashed potatoes, egg burritos. We'll kind of make all that stuff the day or two before, and then Lucy will reheat that just based on like that day of the race. But yeah, each loop it's like I'll have spaghetti and then I'll say, yeah, that tasted good. I'll have more of that. Or, well, let's go to egg burritos. Like, it's just based on feel. There's no science of like, I need this many calories, this many hours, this amount of sodium. It is strictly based on feel and what I can consume in that moment.
So like, nutrition is probably where I struggle with a lot, especially when things are getting tough. Like, I think a lot of people feel that they just don't feel like eating. So, do you have that issue? Or are you a good eater when you run these races?
A little bit of both. I mean, there are lulls where it's I'm just drinking chicken broth. Like that's all I can stomach in that moment. And sometimes I'll come in and it'll be the third time I've had chicken broth, and so Lucy's like, you need to have something hearty, and so it'll be like rice and broccoli and maybe something just a little bit more hearty, maybe some beans in there. And I'll just have to like force myself to eat it. And that's the way it's got to be sometimes. And so I think generally, like, not that I train my stomach, but there'll be days like if it's a Saturday and I'm going out for 20 miles, I'll run to a breakfast spot and then I'll load up on food and then I'll run home. And that to me is very similar to a race where I'm eating real food. I've just got a stomach full of food and have to kind of work through it. Do you do like food, normal food, or do you typically take gels and goos?
No, it's a mix of the both. I'll usually take a gel out with me to have on the loop, like halfway through the loop, and I'll
Yeah.
usually do that just when I haven't. But I'll only do that on loops where I haven't eaten much, like between loops. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
Yeah, if I have some the thing of noodles or something like that, then I won't have a gel mid loop, and I might then I'll come back and have something smaller. But I am getting better at eating. I'm not eating as much sweet stuff as I used to. I'm trying to
Mm.
mix in some savory stuff in there as well, and that's helping a lot too, I think. And I think I'm just getting better at it. And I understand now I've got to eat, because if I don't eat,
Yeah.
then I'll just feel weak and I'll drop out. So sometimes I just find myself just forcing myself to eat.
Yeah. And like, do you find yourself eating a lot early, or are you trying to like, are you waiting and spreading it out?
Yeah, I do try and eat a bit early, just because that's at the time when it's easiest to eat. So I may
Yeah.
as well
Yeah.
get the calories in then. The last one I did, I did the 20, my first 24 hours was okay, but then I kind of dropped the ball with the fueling, and I think that's
Mm.
what caused my downfall. So at around 30, I was just done, and I put that down to the nutrition side of things.
Would you say was it like stomach, like the actually working through your body, or just you couldn't, like you were gagging while eating?
Oh, it was more just I wasn't paying proper attention to getting enough calories
Ah,
down. Like
okay.
when for example, like when my crew were like changing my shoes and socks and popping blisters and stuff, I was just sitting there when I
Mm,
should have actually been eating while they were doing that stuff.
yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
reckon that would have made all the difference.
Yeah. I mean, even like a few bites of something just trains your brain. Like every hour we come and we do this thing.
Yeah,
And I mean, even that stuff is like super important of like, even if it's a few bites, you're like, oh, this is what we do here.
yeah, exactly right,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
So how many hours into last dot standing did you notice that you were starting to feel the pinch of what you were doing?
Honestly, are you saying like when you say pinch, or like
Like,
what do you mean by that?
did it start feeling uncomfortable?
Oh, it, oddly enough, like 18 hours in that first night, I was hallucinating. I
Oh,
hallucinated all through that night,
right.
and I was nervous. I was like, "What's going on here?" I've never actually hallucinated in a last person standing race, and I don't know why I'm doing this now. So that first night was rough, and just decided to get sleep. I think I slept every loop. Um, from hour 20 until loop 30, like just 10 loops in a row, just getting 5 minute nap every single time, like clockwork. And that helped get things back into order. Um, and I think after that point, I think that was my lowest point. After that, it was a lot of like, going through low points and questioning. And I think the biggest thing for me is, and I talked to Garrett about this afterwards, in the days that, after we had recovered and we went back and forth on social media of like, it's funny when people DM you or text you and they say like, I never had a doubt like you were going to do 200 miles, or never had a doubt you were going to win, or never had a doubt you were going to be the last two. Um, and it's like, that's such a wild thing to say, because all I did for all, 63 hours was doubt. Like doubt would enter and you'd have to combat that in some way, shape, or form. And I remember being, 40 or 45 hours in, and this narrative was beginning to start in my head of like, maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe Garrett, maybe he is just going to win this, and, he'll get the $2,000. And, here are the reasons and justifications that I'll explain to my friends later. And this is what I'll post on social media. And like in my mind, I was starting to create this reality, this world in which I didn't win. And
Mm.
my brain and my mind was starting to go there. And I had to reel it back in, like really consciously, with the help of Lucy, like really consciously say, like, that reality does not exist. Like it only exists in my mind.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm still here, the other reality of me winning also exists equally.
Mm.
And as long as I continue to stay present here and not focus on the winning side or the losing side, I can just still create whatever reality I want to in this moment because I'm quite literally in this moment still right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so like it's a constant battle of the doubting and then creating narratives in your mind and having to reel yourself back in to say, nope, we're still here in the moment. So let's be here in the moment. Um, so yeah, just like a constant battle of all of that going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, running these races, I mean, they hurt. Look, most people, when they do these races, they reach a stage where their whole body hurts when they run. So, did you reach a stage where it felt like you were just like on a highway to hell?
I wouldn't say so, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say so, no. I think the course being flat compared to what I typically do at Wausau, I mean, the win I had at Wausau, I think was 38 hours and over 24,000 feet of elevation gain. Like coming out of that race, definitely felt like a highway to hell.
Yeah.
Um, but I think this flat course is just like a moderate lull of a suffer fest, but it never like fell off a cliff.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. And how did the race end? Like, when did you realize that you were running on your last loop?
Well, he came in the last, so we had two different strategies. He was doing more 40-minute loops. I was doing more 52-minute loops. And he started to walk a little bit more in the beginning. And so we got to talking a little bit more in the last 8 hours. And through that, I kind of learned, what his goals were, what they were shifting towards. And on the last loop, he had walked in and he had made the decision that he was going to be done. And he was like, you know, I am not going to go out again unless you want me to go out again. And if you want to get another loop in so that you can do two more loops and really push this. And I was like, no, let's be done. I'm ready. Let's go home. So he had said before the loop started, hey, this is your last loop if you want it to be. And I was like, fair enough. Let's do it.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
So like I was talking to you before I hit record, but I really like your YouTube channel, and you've just started a Chasing Team USA video series on YouTube. But you're
Yeah.
2 episodes in, is that right?
I'm 2 episodes in. I'm editing the third episode as we speak.
Yeah. Cool. And
Yeah.
that will have the footage. Will that have footage from Last Dot in it?
Yeah, a lot of it's going to be surrounded by answering questions that I got and incorporating footage from that race. But yeah,
Cool.
it'll be focused on the last outstanding.
Yeah, awesome. So you're running at Summit Backyard Ultra, a silver ticket race in Texas in November, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that experience at Last Dot Standing, that must give you a heap of confidence going into a race like that.
Yes. Yeah, it does. I think going into like for whatever reason, this last outstanding gave me like affirmation or like it solidified because like obviously I believe in myself so much so to even create a YouTube series that says Chasing Team USA. Like that's kind of a crazy thing to even say. Like what gives me the right to even say that, right? But I believe it. I believe it deep down in my core that I am capable of that. But I never had the tangible evidence for that. I didn't have a Harvey Lewis performance at a Backyard Ultra or Phil Gore. Like I didn't have these type of performances where they really were anything of much significance as it compares to other people in the field, other people in the industry doing this format. And after 63 hours at Last Dot and knowing how I felt at the end of it, being like, I really do feel like I could have gone another day and a half, like before things really broke off. That gave me a lot of confidence to actually look at people like Harvey and be like, okay, I haven't done, 475, but at least I can get an idea of what it feels like to do that.
Yeah.
Like doing 38, I was like, okay, I feel like I could have gone another 12 hours. And and now I know what that feels like. And I know that like, oh, I didn't die. Like I didn't like nothing really horribly went wrong. And so I can kind of project that out to say, okay, I know, I can start to imagine what 12 or 24 or maybe even 36 more hours would feel like. And so, yeah, you're right. Like it just gives me a lot of confidence because it puts tangible evidence in the back of my mind of something that I have done. And now I can kind of build that picture moving forward with like more clarity.
Yeah, excellent. And are there
Yeah.
any like lessons you learned from Last Dot Standing that you'll make adjustments for in November, just as far as strategy goes and things like that?
I don't think a whole lot. Um, you know, I think Lucy and my system is pretty dialed, and I think it's fine tuning some of those other things. And I like to keep things relatively loose, like calendar club and the beer mile stuff, and this last person standing of like not having I need this amount of calories and this amount of sodium because I know things change from race to race so dramatically. I would never have imagined me hallucinating at hour 18. And
Yeah,
if I had like a specific plan in my head of this is how each loop is going to go, then I think that would freak me out too much of like, this isn't how it's supposed to go. And it's like really accepting and submitting to like, hey, it's not in your hands. You just have to adapt to how the race comes to you. Um, and so I'd say for the most part I like our system, and we'll see how it gets tested in this race, and maybe I'll learn something new in November that'll say, hey, you really can't do this anymore, you got to change the way you approach this. And I'm open to learning about that,
yeah,
like I'm open to that fact.
yeah, cool. Lucy will be there crewing for you again in November.
She will. I'm laughing because I told her when I signed up for this race, she was like, "Well, do I need to take work off? Like, do I really need to be there?" I'm like, "Lucy, I will never go to a race without you. Like, if you can't go, I won't be going. That's how important you are." She's
Yeah,
like, "Oh, like okay." I'm like, "Yeah, no, you are vital to this."
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's obviously a dream of yours to run at Bigs and run on Team USA. When did that like when did that dream start, and how did that start?
I mean, recently, really, there's a friend of mine. His name is Alex Proctor, and we kind of got together by going to St. Thomas together. We were a few years apart, but we both have this dream of becoming a professional ultra runner, and whatever that means of like, we just, how we, I guess, articulate that is we want to be able to provide for our family through the art or sport of running. And his objective is he just recently ran UTMB. The Antelope Island 50 miler, he won that and set the course record for that. Like he's very much on this like trail running race, UTMB, Leadville, those types of races. And I'm in this other world of like doing these weird beer miles and last person standing races and kind of creating my own fun challenges like Calendar Club for a full year. And we're trying to merge that together in like how we do that. And he had suggested to me that I should try and, get on the Team USA because he saw in me this like trend of me getting better at these races. And he also knows that I benefit greatly from having like a goal to chase. And so having that goal of like, oh, I'm going to try and make this team that's a year from now, and I can do these mini challenges along the way to try and attain that goal was something that I really fell in love with. And I give all the credit to Alex Proctor for that because he just like, he put that in my brain. I was like, I actually never thought of that. That's a great idea. Like, let me try and complete and collect these coins along the way to this greater, game that we're trying to do. So it was like within the last 3 or 4 months,
Yeah,
really.
awesome, cool.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's heaps of legends over there, backyard legends like Harvey Lewis and Megan Eckert, Scott Snell. Have you met any of them or run against any of them yet?
I have not. I would be honored to do so and hope to one day race alongside them. But no, I have not. I have not met them.
Yeah, awesome. Now I saw on social media that you'll be running at Go One More Ultra next year.
Yeah, yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah,
Um,
that's gonna be huge.
yeah, I'm super stoked for that. Yeah, I just think it's another great opportunity to compete alongside some warriors. I don't know if you saw much of that race last year or were tuning into the live stream or saw the documentary after.
Yeah,
But I was glued to it and I saw how much Kim and Kendall battled. And all I kept thinking about when watching that documentary or watching the live streams was like, I want to be there alongside with them.
mhm.
And super grateful that my name got pulled. And yeah, just excited to go to war with some fellow warriors.
Yeah, unreal. So I don't know if you know or if you're allowed to say, but do you know of any other runners who'll definitely be there?
Well, I know for sure Kim and Kendall will be, based on what they said. I've had a number of people reach out to me and say that, they also are going, but I don't know names specifically off the top of my head, and I don't know if they've posted that anywhere.
Mm.
But personally, I tend not to look, like I haven't looked at who's going to be at Summit. I didn't look who's going to be at Last Dot. I tend not to even indulge in looking at who's going to be there because I don't want that mentality to even creep in.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
you know,
sure. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the doco from the race this year, Surrender. That was pretty good doco.
yeah. What were your thoughts on it? What did you think?
I loved it. I mean,
Yeah,
I especially loved the last 30 minutes about how they really showed the mind games between the two runners, and
yeah,
I loved the insight like from Sam Harvey, Kendall's coach, and it was awesome as well because Kendall's been on this podcast too. So I
mm,
and that was before he was on Go One More as well. So it was fun seeing him do so well.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, he absolutely crushed it. And I think him and I have similar strategies where it's just kind of that slow, methodic, be a robot out there. And it was fun to see how much that was messing with Kim. Of like, at one point, he was like, the dude's just a robot. He does, I'm like, yeah, he's absolutely a robot. Um, but yeah, it'll be exciting. I can't wait to there's a lot of time in between now and then, but yeah, that's definitely going to be a fun race to be a part of.
yeah. So it's pretty amazing how after being run just one time, as far as I'm aware, Go One More is already of, if not the most famous last one standing race on
Yeah.
earth. So what do you think like Nick Baird did right to make it such a big success so quickly?
Well, the dude's a master marketer. I think it's no surprise that, you know, the ultra running space, I think especially the last person standing races and the backyard ultras are still sort of in that old school mentality, which I love. I'm not there's no distaste for it, but I think the reason that Cocodona is as big as it is because they put such an emphasis on how do we bring the viewer into the experience more and more. And Nick Bear is a master of that. In his supplement company, in the documentaries that he makes, in the content that he makes, and the type of athletes that he brings on. I mean, the fact that they created a documentary and then they had a showing where they brought Kim and Kendall back to have like a Q&A, like that stuff matters. That stuff gets the vision out there, it gets the message out there, it gets the brand name out there, it gets all the elements of the race out there, where then he's building a story of like, this is what happened last year. Tune in to see what happens next year. And a lot of these other races is like, this race happened. Here was the winner. And we'll see you again in 365 days.
Yeah,
And like that continual narrative, I think that they did such a great job with. And like the live streaming, it was like 10,000 people would pop into the live stream for the 10 minutes leading up to the final hour, and then they'd be off, and then people would go about their day, and then in 50 minutes 10,000 people would come back in, you know. And my group chat of runners, we were all texting about it, like who's gonna, you know, they just do a great job of being front of mind and present and like getting to the mainstream. So I think for all those elements, like he's the best at that. And I think that element really, and you know, I think the race wouldn't have gotten as big as it was without Kendall and Kim. Like unless you had two guys battling as hard as they did, it wouldn't have been, you know, as significant, but it was all these elements came together.
yeah, sure. I mean, the other good thing about the race is that the runners who get involved, it boosts their profile so much as well. Like Kendall had about 2,000 followers on Instagram. He's got over 30,000 now.
Yeah.
It's just from that performance.
Yeah. 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 I noticed that too. And I think that's why I think more people are you would read the comment section and you would have thought that people thought that Nick Bare invented the last person standing race. And I know that can be frustrating of like, God, all of these like gym bros, they're just like, they never knew this has been a thing for years. But like, I think that's part of it. It just brings a whole new demographic of people into the race. But,
yeah, awesome. So in Australia, we've got a lot of backyard ultras, and pretty much all of them are Bigs, like affiliated with Laz and Bigs Backyard. And everyone wants to run on the Australian team and make it to Bigs. Is it like that in America as well? Because it seems like there's heaps of last one standing races, but a lot of them aren't actually Bigs affiliated or anything like that. So are they? How big are they over there? Like the whole Bigs thing?
Maybe I'm not the best person to ask because I am not I'm not ingrained in much to like the running and ultra running culture as maybe like my buddy Proctor is, or he's paying attention to all these things. But I think even for myself, who's been running backyards now for 4 or 5 years, I didn't really even recognize that you could join Team USA until recently. And so, like, to me, it seems like the last person standing races and maybe the stuff that Laz does, like the Barkley and some of these other races are the outliers. They're still the weird stuff in the sport where a lot of the attention right now is on the Cocadonas and in the Leadvilles and I just don't think it's as popular, which is weird because like I think it's a testament to what Nick Bare did is like I think the last person standing races could be the most popular because when you think about it, it's like you don't have to worry about 250 miles of streaming, of like documenting stuff. You have one site, one location, and you could blow that up. But I think it's just not as sexy as some of these other races. And therefore, I don't think it's really made its way into the mainstream. Definitely not the mainstream, like just fitness culture, but not as like, it's not in the top 3 of like running mainstream culture. But you're saying that's different in Australia.
Oh well, yeah. Like as far as backyard ultras go, like it's pretty big. Like as far as people who do backyards understand running for Team Australia and they understand the whole at large list and silver ticket races. It's pretty well like the information, like everyone is aware of what's going on. But it feels like in America, it feels like people know of last one standing races, but maybe Bigs isn't as well known as it could be.
Well, I think another thing of that is like, well, Wausau and Last Dot Standing, I don't think are Bigs affiliated.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think, at least from my perspective, I still don't know, like, do you have to be asked to run at Bigs? Can you just sign up for Bigs? Or do you have to like win something? I guess I'm asking like, you, like,
Yeah.
I think when people think of Barkley and Biggs, they're like, it's for the elite of the elite.
Yeah. So with the bigs coming up in a couple of weeks, like that's the individual Backyard Ultra
Yep.
World Championships, and there's 75 runners, and it's basically all the national champions get invited,
Okay.
and then there's the at-large list. So that's the runners who have done the most yards in the qualifying period. So yeah, there's runners who have done. Phil Gore's going to be there. So
Yep. Okay.
119
And he's
yards.
Australian, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So that's the biggest race as far as backyard ultras go, as far as prestige and things like that goes. But it almost feels like Go One More is more well known. Just
Yeah,
because,
it does.
yeah. um,
What do you think that is?
I think it's what you said. Nick Bear's just like really good at promoting the race. He's already got a huge following, and
Yeah.
he knows how to use social media.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm just wondering, like maybe if Nick Bear wanted to, he could like create a Go One More like thing, like a bit like Biggs, but it could blow up. Do you know what I mean? Just he's so good at it.
Yeah. And you're saying from the perspective of like, let's get 75 of the best runners type of thing?
Yeah, well, like he could create a circuit like a Go One More Alt. He could organise a
Mm,
Go One More in other countries and qualifying
yeah.
races and it's going to be interesting to see what happens because Go One More's not Big's affiliated either.
Mm. I wonder what the benefits and like what the benefits or disadvantages of being a Biggs affiliate, do you know?
Being able to qualify to run at Bigs and being able to qualify for Team USA.
Okay.
Because yeah, so last start, your performance at last start, for example, doesn't count towards
Doesn't count. Yeah.
yeah. But Summit Backyard Ultra, it
Will.
does. Even so,
Yeah.
even if you say, for example, if you finish as the last one standing at dot, you'll get the silver ticket, so you're guaranteed a spot on Team USA. But you can also qualify for Team USA just by running a big total, and
Right, right,
yeah, and that total could be enough to get you in.
right.
It would
But
have to be
last
pretty
dots
big.
was not, it'd have to be at a qualifying
Yeah,
race, correct?
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Big's
Yeah.
affiliated. Yeah. There are a lot of them over like Capital Backyard Ultra. That's a pretty big one. I think that's probably in about May each year.
And where's that?
I think it's in Washington.
Okay.
I might be wrong though. I might be wrong. I
I
think,
know there was one there. I know there was one like Portland area
mm,
early on as well. But
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's it's interesting because yeah, the sport is changing so much, and I think there is that. I don't know. Is that like mainstream stuff that Nick Bear's doing? Is that ever going to merge with the kind of old school mentality? What would you prefer? Like when you see people comment, I know I feel a certain way of like when people comment, oh, like Nick Bear invented this race with all the history that you know. Like
yeah,
something about that rubs me the wrong way, like an old man that's like, oh, this has been going on for years.
yeah, yeah,
Show some respect.
yeah,
But but I think also like what they're doing for the sport is creating like insane opportunities.
Mm.
Like, so it goes both hand, but like would you want them to merge together or do you think that it would just be better two different areas?
Well, I think the good thing about the Go One More thing is it's brought in a whole new audience to the
Yeah.
format who didn't know it existed before.
Right.
Um, But the thing with Go One More is that there's no, like you said, like it does kind of feel like Nick Bear, like he invented the format when he
Right.
like he doesn't like on the doco, for example, it doesn't say this format is often known as a backyard ultra and
Right, right,
they
right,
run,
right.
yeah, it kind of like does
Yeah.
vibe like this is an original kind of race. So I think, yeah, I mean, it's just interesting. I think if more work was done for bigs and things like that, like the social media, like and promote it more, like Nick Bear does with Go One More, then a lot of more people would obviously have an understanding about how it all works. And yeah, well, I mean, I think it would be nice if more people there knew about how to qualify for Team USA and things like that, because it sounds like there's a whole heap of races over there that are last one standings, but not affiliated. It have nothing to do with bigs.
Yeah.
It's just interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Europe, like there's heaps of their main all the last one standings in Europe and UK. They've got heaps of them over there, and they're usually all affiliated with bigs too.
That's so interesting.
Yeah, but
Huh.
I mean, like, Bigs is the home of backyard ultras, where the first one was ever run and things like that. It's Laz's backyard, so it's always got that prestige about it. Like it's
Yeah.
definitely as far as um, hardcore backyard ultra people go, Biggs is the ultimate. Like everyone wants to win at Biggs.
Mm.
But yeah, the so what are your long term backyard ultra goals? Like it's making Team USA. Have you thought beyond that?
Not much. I mean, I don't think my vision for it was beyond making the backyard, Team USA team because I try and stay focused on one thing that I can at a time and not getting too ahead of myself. But even like hearing you talk about bigs and hearing the process of getting to bigs, like I definitely want to stay in this backyard ultra scene and be a part of like I don't think I can like this is like personally, I don't think I will feel satisfied about my performance in a backyard unless it's up against like a Phil Gore or like like until I see face to face with the best people in the sport, I don't think I'll ever feel like satisfied in that sense because of what it does, like because of the fear that it does, because of like the like, oh, okay, I'm no longer, just racing at a unaffiliated race in the middle of Wisconsin. Like this is the best people in the world are here. And
Yeah,
something about that scares me at the same time as like excites me. And so like that feeling is something that I want to explore more of, and learning the process of how to get there and be around those people. From like a general point of view, I think is a direction that I'm kind of leaning toward. Now, how that comes to life, I don't know, but I know I got this November race, I got the Go One More race, and hopefully that that November race will get me on that Team USA team. And if it doesn't, then I'll find another race or try and do something there, But I think short term, like staying focused on that and then knowing that if I accomplish these short term goals, then a byproduct of that is being more ingrained in this ultra backyard community.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Are you interested in like dipping your toes in a few more point to points? Like I saw you did one like 135 miler earlier this year.
Yeah. Arrowhead.
Yeah, that's
Are you
it.
are you familiar with Arrowhead?
I'm not, but it looks like it's a tough course though.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in northern Minnesota in January. So temperatures range from minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And it's a point to point, 135 miles, 3 aid stations. You got to pull a sled full of required gear. And that was another thing that like scared me,
Yeah.
but it also excited me. And I went there and I learned so much about my character and what it means to really suffer. And so I'm going back again in January. So that race is coming up. And I think like that world of like, okay, this is one of the coldest races in the world. Then it goes like, oh, why would you not then try Badwater? You know, one of the if not the hottest race. So like that stuff intrigues me.
Yeah.
And I think like that stuff more than any other race. I'm signed up for Cocodona. I'm on the wait list, but I'm going to take my name off because the cost aligned with like I don't really have a big interest in it. And
Mm.
if I'm being entirely honest, I think a big reason why I signed up was because I saw it as an opportunity to, if I performed well there, then there could be opportunities for sponsorships or opportunities for me to just like prove that I was good enough on a scale.
Mm.
Um, like against other runners in the sport, but it's just like not something I'm really interested in for the right reasons. But
Yeah.
like doing Badwater or going back to Arrowhead or this backyard stuff, that is that's a direction of, you know, point to point or backyards that I definitely want to do more of.
Yeah, cool. So I'll ask all my guests on the podcast, Mark, for their 3 backyard ultra tips. Now, I saw you were talking about some tips on your, I think it was episode 1 of your YouTube series. But what would you say your 3 backyard ultra tips are?
Um, Number one, don't worry about the competition at all. Like, if you worry about the competition, you've already lost. The second is find a good crew partner.
Mm.
Mine is my fiance Lucy, and I really fundamentally believe that she is the glue that holds it all together. And then the third is find something foundational in your life that can get you through the hard times.
Mm.
And that to me is a faith in Christ. It's something that I've been growing a relationship with for the last 2 years. And when it got really difficult out there, I was reminded of John chapter 12, verse 23 through 28, where Christ talks about how a grain of wheat, a kernel of wheat must die in order to bear many fruits.
Mm.
And he talks about how we must sacrifice and die to ourselves in order for us to live eternally in glory with Christ. And that foundational piece is what holds Lucy and I together. That's what holds this whole thing together. And so throughout the race, we just kept looking at each other and reminding each other, like, Lucy, if you continue to believe in me, I will continue to fight like hell in order to honor that commitment. And we will continue to sacrifice what we want for what we believe in this moment about this race. And regardless of the outcome, if it doesn't work out, we can be happy with the commitment and the belief we had right here in each other for what we believe is the right reasons. And so regardless if that's Christ or faith or religion or whatever foundational piece in your life, you will experience the most significant darkness and doubt and like self-criticism in a backyard ultra that you've probably ever experienced. I mean, David, you've probably experienced it too. Like, it sucks. And so you should prepare to have something that can combat those, you know, dark thoughts, those thoughts of like, you're not good enough. And like, what's going to help you through that? And whatever that is, just lean on that in that moment.
Yeah. I remember the last one I did, I was running, it must have probably been around 25, 26 hours. And I was just thinking, I was so sure I wouldn't be feeling, I wanted this so bad. I
Mm.
didn't think I'd be feeling like this. I thought it would be so easy, but even though before the race I wanted to do well so bad, like it gets so hard. Like it's so
Yeah.
hard to hold on to those thoughts, those positive thoughts.
Yeah. What do you tell yourself in those moments?
Oh, I just tell myself my main 2 things I try and remember to keep disciplined So discipline to keep running when I need to run, and also focus, stay focused. Because if you lose focus just for an instant, you could time out or you could turn back. You need to
Yeah.
stay focused towards wanting to keep on finishing one more loop over and
Right.
over again. So focus and I forget the other word I said, but
Discipline.
it's discipline and focus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what works for me most. Well, that's what I try and I write it down. I write those two words down on my hand, so I look down
Mm.
and remember them. Yeah,
How many backyards have you done?
16.
Holy smokes. What do you think your biggest lesson from your first to your 16th has been?
Well, on my first one, like I knew nothing. I knew
Yeah.
nothing. So it was mainly just learning about nutrition, like taking more food. Because I took like some coconut water and some biscuits to my first one.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anyone who'd ever run a backyard ultra before, or anyone who'd even run an ultra before. And I had no idea how good some of these runners are. So it was not a shock, but I realized, oh wow, like there are some pretty good runners here. Like, like I want to be, and I thought I want to be like these guys. So
Mm.
that's when I started like learning more about the format and running more and training more. And yeah, to my next race, I took more food, and then
Mm.
yeah, and it just went from there, like writing out a bit of a plan for my crew to follow so they knew what food to have out each loop. And it was and just the determination and mindset, that's where I've improved the most. So my PB is 38 now.
Nice.
Mm.
Is that, or do you typically go back to the same courses, or how many of those 16 are different races?
I've probably done about probably about 6 or 7 different races. I've gone back to 2 races 4 times each. Yeah, and all the rest are just scattered around Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What was your previous personal best before 38?
36, and
Okay.
then so I've actually got into the 30s 8 times, which I think is a pretty good achievement.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. Do you think that, like, was there ever a time where it went from 24 to 30, like a big jump, or has it been
Yeah,
incremental every year?
yeah. The first time I did 34, that was a jump from 26 to 34.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, and since
What do
then,
you,
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry.
I was just going to ask, what do you attribute? Because that's obviously a significant jump. Do you think it was the training? Do you think it was like the mindset during the race that you switched? What do you think helped you there?
I think it was. I did train pretty hard. Like I did a lot of like back to back long runs with
Okay.
elevation, and that helped. But I think the biggest thing was this race where I broke through for that 34. I actually flew to the other side of Australia. So I made a commitment to travel. And I
Okay.
remember, so I remember when it got really
Yes.
hard. Yeah, it got really hard, like around 18. I was thinking, oh man, I don't want to, I've still got to do this like 6 more hours till I get to 24
Yeah.
and that type of thing. But then I was thinking, man, if I pull out, my plane to go back home isn't for like another 5 days. So I've got to keep going. And so that actually helped me push through and get to my 34.
David, I think you should fly to America. I think
Yeah,
you get a
yeah,
personal best.
yeah, yeah,
You've come this far. You
yeah,
gotta keep going.
yeah. Yeah. I would love to. I would love to run a few in some other countries, but one of the things I'm changing next year, because I've done 4 this year, one of the things I'm changing is I'm going to just do 2 next year, just
Okay.
because it is hard to continually get up mentally and physically. If I just do 2 and then run a few others, just fun little ultras in between. But yeah, the backyard ultras are always my A races.
What are your goals in this world?
Well, I want to make. I mean, I would love to make the Australian team. it's one of the strongest countries though. Like to get onto the team. Well, I ran a silver ticket race just 2 weeks ago. Was my last race, and the winner went for 60 hours. So
Okay.
they're pretty strong. And to get onto the at large list at 62 hours, so it's
Wow.
and there's a lot of people who want to make that Australian team.
Yeah.
It's really, which is good because it means everyone's improving. Like
Yeah,
um, iron sharpens iron.
for sure.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean that's my victory at last dot quite literally would not be possible without Garrett
yeah.
doing also like we were there for 30 hours together.
Mm,
And so that it's funny, I was either watching a Biggs like documentary or someone was talking about how uh the the best predictor for how far the race will go is like these incremental landmarks of like how many people are at 24 hours.
mm,
If it's 20 people at 24 hours compared to 10 people, like the race will go significantly longer. Of
mm.
like at these 12-hour increments of like how many people are there will push the race out by X amount. It's pretty wild,
Yeah.
but it's true. Like iron sharpens iron. The
Mm.
race will only go as far as how many people decide to keep going.
Yeah, it's interesting that I was actually thinking about why one of the reasons why that is, and I was thinking like could I get inspiration while I'm running these backyard ultras by watching the other runners, like because
Mm,
there's even from the very start of the race, there's always runners who are doing distance PBs and breaking
yep.
their own records from the very start of the race, and
Yeah.
even 5 and 6 hours into these races, like I'm watching people like work their ass off to hit their goal and stuff, and that helps drive me to find one more yard later on in the race. So
Yeah.
even like yeah, even from the very start of the race, these runners like the hobbyists, I guess you could call them, they're
Yeah.
inspiring to the people who are like right up the very top as well, I think.
Yeah, I bet you would agree with this, and maybe you've witnessed it, but that's part of the reason I love going back to Wausau every year is like when you go back to some of these same races, particularly in the backyard, you see people that started out where they like 4 loops was their PR,
Yeah.
and then they come back 2 years or 3 years later and they're at 16 loops, and like that is so cool to be able
Yeah.
to witness.
Yeah. It is like yeah, because I ran a backyard earlier this year, and I watched one person like bust their gut to do like I think it was about 18 yards, and then they came back to this other one and they had it in them. I want to do 24, and they
Mm.
worked so hard. I loved watching them hit that goal. Yeah, yeah,
It's great. It's like,
yeah.
it's also like, what are we doing out here? Like, what do we, you know?
But I mean,
uh,
people must have seen you like start at Warsaw and do your 2021, and then now they're seeing you like finish as the last one standing at 38.
yeah, yeah. And that's also like a cool like reason for the Wausau and going back to races is those race directors have become like family. And so like after the 63 hour, they texted me and they're like, it's like we saw you quit at hour 20 first
Yeah,
year, like and really struggle. And
yeah,
yeah, it's cool to that's the I think one of the best gifts of running is like you get to meet these people that you otherwise would never have met,
mm,
and then you get to watch and help each other grow, which
yeah,
is in whatever aspect that is in life. And that's real special. It's really a special experience.
yeah. Well, hey, look, thanks heaps for coming on the podcast. It's been an awesome chat. I can't wait to see you run at Summit Backyard Ultra.
Thanks.
It's going to be really fun to watch. So all the best at that race. I know you're going to
Thank you.
do well. So how do people find you? What it's Mark Dowdle. Just search for Mark Dowdle in YouTube, and they can find your YouTube channel.
Yeah, YouTube and Instagram, mark.dowdle, and you can find me there.
Mm,
So yeah, that's
awesome.
good places.
And I think, yeah, like Go One More is going to be epic as well. So looking forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome.
Um,
Well, look, thanks for coming on.
yeah,
Awesome chat. Great to meet you, and we'll keep in touch.
yeah, yeah. Thank you, David. This was a real pleasure.
Thanks.
Appreciate your time. Thanks.